Well, hi, I'm Simon Cox. I'm the writer and director of a new science fiction feature film which we're making called Kaleidoscope Man, and I've been asked by our friends at Turnabout Media to tell you a few things about it, and they've given me some questions. So, first question please. Okay, so in my various blog videos that I've put out over the last year or so, I've talked about how I've been inspired by things like The $6 Million Man, Doctor Who, and of course Star Wars, the big one, and all these things have had a huge influence on me. But the question is, what else has influenced me? Well, to be honest, there's one person actually, and that's Mr. George Lucas. I know that's probably a bit of an old cliche, but the first time I saw Star Wars, I was so moved and inspired by this experience. You know, you have to remember, we're kind of used to seeing great special effects and all that things now, but back in about, I think it was 1978, I was 13 years old. I remember being in the cinema full of kids on a Saturday morning, and the euphoric feeling that was coming out of the audience. They booed when Darth Vader appeared, they screamed and cheered with joy when Luke arrived. We all cheered when Han Solo first turned up and they first fought their way off Tatooine, and it was such an emotional experience. And I just felt when I came out of it, of the cinema, I hid underneath the cinema, by the way. Sorry, I hid underneath the seats at the end of the screening, and then waited for the next screening, and we watched the film twice. I came away from that, and I think my life was just different, because I just knew I wanted to make films and I wanted to give an audience that kind of reaction. And I think everything from that period in TV and films was just so open and so full of ideas and inspiring ideas and energy. Thinking back to The $6 Million Man, I was probably, what was I when I was probably 6, 7 when I first started watching The $6 Million Man. And being British, we had things like Doctor Who, which were fantastic, but there was something about these American shows that we were seeing, and Steve Austin, The $6 Million Man, was just so cool. And I really wanted to be like Steve Austin with bionic powers and things. But this was all hugely influential on me. Certainly, in growing up as a child and a teenager, it had a huge influence on me. And I knew fairly early on that I wanted to make movies. So hugely influential. Okay, so I've been working on Kaleidoscope Man for over 10 years trying to get it done. How have I evolved as a filmmaker? Well, to be honest, I knew, because I was a child when I knew that I wanted to make this thing. I didn't know what it quite was. I sort of look back over my life, and it's really built up to, what it is now. The Kaleidoscope Man script, I've had it for about 12 years. I've had the idea for 12 years. I mean, the script's gone through loads of different changes over the years. But I knew pretty much what I wanted to be. So I wouldn't say I've evolved much. I've got older and wiser, and I've had a family and what have you since then. So I've changed. I guess I've grown as a human being. But I still I've really tried to hold on to that kind of magic, that essence that I got when I first saw Star Wars. So the film is very much what I would have made as a kid, I guess, if I'd had the script and the technology and the experience as that I've got now. And I'm planning to make a classic. He says it's easy to say these things, but I'm hoping to make a real classic movie that will move and inspire people. And that's kind of it, really. So how have I evolved as a filmmaker? I've just watched more films, I guess, and looked at more of what people are doing, and I've been out more. I've been out in the field more with the camera. So I'm a better photographer, I guess, and all of that kind of thing. I'm certainly a better editor, and I had a very good training in editing anyway, so that's always held me in good stead. So I suppose I'm just experience. Life brings experience and wisdom, so I've got all of that to bring to the table. But it is very much about capturing that magic essence, that childhood essence, I guess, that I got as a kid. So hopefully Kaleidoscope Man will deliver just that. Okay, well, the next question is, how am I feeling going into the 4th phase of crowdfunding on this movie? Well, to be honest, I'm very, very excited to be going into this phase because, for one, the 3 phases we've done, we now have a considerable chunk of the movie in the can, and I'm just so pleased with it. After all these years of dreaming about it, here it is, it's starting to come together. And so I'm really excited about it. And, before crowdfunding, I tried to fund this the traditional way, which was, you take the script round to film companies, and you do a business plan, you go to see investors, and it's really, really tough. I found it tough because, especially when speaking to investors, because obviously they're investors, they want to make money. So when they ask you, well, what's the return going to be on our investment? That's a really hard question to answer. Wherever I looked, nobody could give me a definitive answer. And it's all right saying to an investor, yeah, it's going to make loads of money, but you know, when you're talking to people that are pretty much putting their life savings into your vision, that's a big call, and I don't want to lose people money. So I just was unsure that it was working. My first film, a distributor had a 5-picture deal. He'd honoured 4 films. He had a bit of money left for the 5th film. I was right place, right time, and he had a bit of money. He gave me the money, and I went off and made the film, and he honoured his agreement, and the film sold all over the place. So that was really straightforward. You know, over the years, though, that times have changed. Whereas crowdfunding, what I like is you get a lot of people putting in small amounts of money, no risk. Obviously, you have to fulfill the rewards, so they might, you know, get a poster or the DVD when the film comes out, or we've got the art book and all this sort of thing. So they'll get all of those, but it is minimal risk for everybody. And I've got to tell you, it's much more fun dealing with people that are fans of films and fans of sci-fi, just like I am, because I feel like team leader at the moment, taking everybody out on this journey, and we are having an absolute ball. So I'm very, very excited going in. You know, and also one of the things that I learned the hard way last year was I did 3 Kickstarters, and 2 of them failed. And when you fail on a Kickstarter, you don't get any money at all. So if you raise, you know, we set the level at 15,000, and we hit 7, and all that money I'd raised, all that work, you just don't get it. So that's why I now go with Indiegogo. If we don't hit our target, well, at least we've got some money so we can continue the movie. And I think that's really, really important to me. So I would say to any other filmmakers out there, really, really serious about making their films, if they think they can get a crowd together to fund it at the level on Kickstarter, then fine, go for it. But Indiegogo works for me much better. Okay, this next question is about how we've got all this social media, we've got the website, we've got all these things about the movie, and I've basically got an open door policy so everybody can see how we're getting on with it. Now, I'm really up for that. It's normally what we do in the past is you'd write your script and you'd get the film out there, but you wouldn't tell anybody, and then eventually you go, here's my film. Well, what I've done this time is I've gone, here's my film, and I put it out there. But I've got to be really careful because I don't obviously want to spoil it. I'm not giving away everything. So I have been very, very careful about every actual shot that we put out. So what you see in the trailers, that's, I'm very careful that I don't give away too much. But what I have done is I have been taking my iPhone with me, and every time we shoot something, or I go on a recce or do whatever, I've just filmed myself talking to camera, talking about what we're trying to do, the ideas, and I've made it like a little kind of little series of, so, you know, part 28, the perfect graveyard, and then we look at the graveyard and that. But these have been really good. For one, they've been great for me because it gives me a really good sort of summary of how we're getting on with the film. But a lot of people are watching these videos, and it is a bit like taking people on the journey with me. I just want to make sure that I don't give away too much, but you know, people are having a ball. And when we put out about the last crowd scene we did, you know, we put a few tweets out, a few Facebook posts out. We had hundreds of people turned up, and a lot of people said, "Hey, I've been watching your videos. They're absolutely fantastic." So I'm really enjoying doing this, and I will do it on every shoot. If there's anything that I really don't want to give out, then I won't do. One of the other things we've done on the bigger shoots, where we've obviously got a big team, and I can't really go around filming myself as well as make the film. A friend of mine, Ian Dangerfield, has been there. He does the sound as well, but he's been there with his camera, just capturing lots of behind-the-scenes footage. You know, his daughter comes along and does it. And this has been absolute gold. So I've been able to make quite a lot of little episodes out of the various shoots we've done, and that's been really cool. So I'm really enjoying that, and I'm going to keep doing it. And I just think that it'll build up our audience and get people talking about it, and give people an insight into how movies are made. Because, you know, we only really get what we're given on. I mean, a lot of the DVDs now do show you a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff, but you have to watch the film first. And I'd rather do it this way. So when the film comes out, hopefully people are really excited about it, and everything they see on the screen will mean something because they've sort of been on the journey with me. So anyway, we'll see if it works. Okay, the next question is, what are the drawbacks of crowdfunding a film, and any advice to anybody thinking of doing it? I think the drawbacks realistically are, I'm finding it hard to bring in lots of money. You know, I could do with £150,000, and you know, one of those great, really successful Kickstarter campaigns where everybody makes, you know, they make sort of serious amounts of money. We could do with that. Then I could pay myself a bit to work on the film full time, and that doesn't seem to have happened yet. But I'm not too worried about that. I'm enjoying doing it this way. I think the drawbacks are you put yourself out there, and you have to do that. If you don't hit your target, it's kind of difficult, especially if you've done an Indiegogo and you raise a little bit of money. Say you're trying to raise 50 grand and you raise 2, you've still got to honour that commitment. So that's tricky. But I think you've got to get your groups together. I mean, you know, if you know anything about crowdfunding, it's all about your network. So you've got to build up that network. And you know, I've spent a few years going to sci-fi conventions, talking about the film, building up a database of people. I've done a lot of work on Facebook and Twitter. We're building up our audience, and the really important thing that people forget is it has to be interesting. You have to give out stuff that people will engage with and enjoy. And my video blogs seem to have done the trick. I had a lot of artwork done, which we put out a lot of artwork, and I've always tried to give lots of good stuff out there. So I'm hoping that'll do that. I mean, you know, to be honest, even these interviews, I've never really been someone to talk on camera until the last couple of years. So, but I've just decided, you know what, if that's what it takes, you've got to put yourself out there. So I would say that the drawbacks. Are there any drawbacks? No, you've just got to be prepared, really. That's the main thing. The advantages, of course, hugely outweigh the disadvantages, as in we can get funding for our films. Anybody, if you're really passionate and committed to it, you can get funding for your film now. This way, you don't have to go to any funding bodies, you don't have to go to any big powerful investors. You can go out to your friends and your Facebook friends, your Twitter followers, tell them what you're doing, and if you engage with them in the right way, they will jump on board, and not only will they give you some money, they'll become advocates for you. So they will also be out there promoting the film on your behalf, which is hugely, hugely valuable to anybody making a film, because ultimately, you know, when you finish the film, you've suddenly got a huge audience as well that will hopefully, if it's a good film, will hopefully watch it, share it, tell their friends, and you know, spread the word about your movie. So it's great, and it's something we can do without having to spend millions and millions of pounds promoting it around the world. Of course, if you can get someone like Warner Brothers in at the end to sell it for you, then that's great. But I think I think it's the future of filmmaking, and I certainly feel that I'm part of the new wave of independent filmmakers that are out there doing it, and we are going to shake the old system to the ground. Not, you know, don't get me wrong, I love the old system, there's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't work for independent filmmakers anymore. So unless you're in the system and you've hit the big time, then great, but if not, this is the way to go. So I would seriously advise any new filmmaker or anyone thinking of doing it, build up your audience, create something of value, and give them a project that's good. You know, there's a lot of films out there that, sorry, in my humble opinion, that don't turn me on, don't excite me. So hopefully give people something that they want to go and see and want to go and queue up on a Saturday night to go and see. Okay, the next question is, if I could go back in time and I could embark on Kaleidoscope Man 10 years ago, what would I do differently? Well, there are a few things that I would do differently, and the first one is, and I would advise this to any filmmaker, follow your heart, follow your instincts. I was led down the garden path a little bit, certainly on getting the film funded and getting it produced. You know, the money wasn't there, and I waited around a lot. I waited around for people to get me the money. I waited for the phone to ring, and you know, it doesn't happen. And you know, suddenly the years go by and you think, I'm not making my film. You know, I'm very enthusiastic about it. I have all these great conversations, but where's the money? Why is the film not happening? Ultimately, you know, it's down to you. You've got to just make that decision and go for it. Okay, so that's the first thing. The other thing is, and this is based on the old funding model. Okay, it's kind of embarrassing this, but I got the wrong type of funding. You know, I tried everything, went banging my head against a brick wall, and I was offered a lot of money by a company that would partly fund the film, but in return they wanted things that were just not, they just weren't appropriate to me. Not, hang on, that sounds like, there wasn't sexual favours or anything, but they wanted a share of my company that was my bread and butter company. I do this is kind of, I do, you know, I work on film, on corporate videos and stuff. They wanted a slice of that, and I gave that up for the film, but unfortunately it wasn't all the funding, and I couldn't get the other funding that I was promised, and so it all kind of collapsed and went a bit horrible, and you know, I nearly lost my house over it as well. So I would seriously recommend where you get your funding from, so that I would change. But you know, we're so lucky in the last 4 years, crowdfunding's come along, and it's now set up perfectly. You know, for one, we've got broadband, so we can put our videos online perfectly. We've got these great funding platforms like Indiegogo and Kickstarter. So I mean, you know, if I was starting 10 years ago, I would have loved Indiegogo and Kickstarter to be around, but they weren't. So I would probably do the same, but I would very much listen to my instinct all the way through, because, you know, if you're going to cock something up, make sure it's your cock up, not somebody else's cock up. So that's it really. I'd follow my heart more and just keep going, you know. Filmmaking is a marathon, it's not a sprint, and you just got to keep going. And you know, my friend, an editor friend of mine, said that it was last man standing with making films. It's just, you just got to keep going. You just got to keep going, and I think that's the secret, and that's you know, that's the advice I would have said to myself then. But the thing is, even if I went back then and knew what I knew now, I'd still do it. My passion for making this movie is too much, so there you go. Okay, well, last question is quite a nice one. Finally, if I could have dinner with anybody, alive or dead, who would it be? Well, I think that's a fairly easy question actually. It would be quite a big table, but I would have, I think I would obviously have George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. They'd be guests of honours. We'd dig up Alfred Hitchcock, Stanley Kubrick, of Charlie Chaplin, George Méliès. Wouldn't that be an interesting mix? So yeah, that would be quite good. Wouldn't mind Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill coming along. Who else? Jack Nicholson he'd be entertainment, as would Christopher Walken. So yeah, it would be. Although that's quite a big scary table. There's only two Brits there actually, apart from myself. But it would be good. Oliver Reed. I think we'd have to bring Oliver Reed along. I've got to tell you a quick story about Oliver Reed actually. When I first went to London, I was 22. I was working in a bar. Oliver Reed walks in. Busy Friday night. It was absolutely packed, full of punters, and it was really hot, sweaty evening. And I was running behind the bar. We were running out of glasses. Oliver Reed walks in, absolutely drunk as hell, and he said to me, "Double gin and tonic." So I said, "Okay." So I grabbed a glass, and it was hot. So I put it under the cold tap, very quick. You know, people everywhere. Tried to cool it down. Gave him a double gin and tonic. Handed it over. Took his money. Turned away, turned back. Suddenly, this big hand, sorry, just forgot I've got the mic on. Suddenly his hand grabs my collar, tugs me over, face to face with Oliver Reed, and he shoved his glass in my face and said, "Do you expect me to drink this?" And I said, "No, really sorry, no." And he was very rude to me actually. And maybe I won't invite him, he was quite rude to me. Anyway, got him another drink, he was fine. But then there was potential for a punch-up with these big group of Irish builders that were messing about with him. So yeah, so maybe not Oliver Reed, but that was a very, very long-winded answer there. I do apologise. So hopefully that's a nice little table of people, and I hope you found this of interest. One thing you'll know about me is I can talk for England. So talking for England. Thank you very much. Remember, if you'd like to come on board and support Kaleidoscope Man, it's our Indiegogo campaign is up until the, hang on a second, is up until the 22nd of June, and it's www.igg/me/at/kman4, or just go to the website, which is kaleidoscopeman.com, which is probably easier if you can spell Kaleidoscope Man. But thank you so much, guys, for this opportunity to talk, and I hope you found it of interest, And thanks to Leonaire and Turnabout Media for giving me the chance to talk to you guys. All right, see you soon. Bye.